Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Zim, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello everyone, good evening. So today is Friday the 5th of June 2020. This is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here with you tonight. And everyone, thank you very much for listening and following this Facebook online Dhamma talks and reflections in different topics from far and wide. So, hi everyone. Hi Jojo Lepak, Colin, Natia, Manish, Margaret, and everyone, those who are listening the talk, sparing this time in this pandemic time, and some of you still indoor, locked in, and others are easing an ability to go out. So this time of this, every night I'm here with you with some Dhamma offerings. And I hope that you are enjoying and using this time to listen the talks, expanding your understanding of the teachings. So today is full moon day, and in the Buddhist calendar, full moon day is regarded as one of the holy days that monks or lay people will come along to practice the Dhamma together. In particularly, Buddhists would go to the temples and monasteries and observe the 8 precepts and practice meditation, listen to talks, and engage in other religious activities, chanting and offerings, recitations, and like that. And today's full moon is one of the very famous and important full moons for particularly Sri Lankan community or Sri Lanka. It is believed that the day when the King Emperor Asoka sent the first missionaries to different countries, one of the missionaries went to Sri Lanka, and which is about 200 BC. And ever since, Sri Lanka became a Buddhist country and become a country who become the protector, promoter, and maintainer, particularly the Buddhist, the Theravada Buddhism. And as Buddhism went to Sri Lanka, it also changed the history of Sri Lanka, introduced the Buddhism, introduced new culture, replacing so-called, those days people were worshipping the mountains, trees, rivers, simply because of out of fear. After this missionary monk, a group of missionary monks went to Sri Lanka around 200 BC, they introduced a new faith, new tradition, replacing worshipping the mountains, trees, rivers, and so and so. And the replacement is paying respect to the Bodhi tree, establishment of the Chaitya, and a new form of a Buddhism introduced by practicing 5 precepts. And on this first missionary monks, led by Venerable Mahinda, who was the prince, ordained as a monk and studied, well versed in the Buddha's teachings. And later, after the third Buddhist councils, he was assigned to visit Sri Lanka in particular. And on arrival in Sri Lanka, the king Devanampiya Tisha, he was so impressed, and in a request of the king, Venerable Mahinda taught the teachings so-called Chula Hatti Padopama Sutta. And this sutta was spoken by the Buddha in the Savatthi. And this Chula Hatti Padopama Sutta means the footprint of elephant. Discourse on the footprint of the elephant. And today, because of this important day of full moon, and in relation to that, I will summarize this discourse that Buddha taught, or the conversation, and what is the teachings that we can see here in that sutta. So this particular sutta, the Chula Hatti Padopama Sutta, we can find it in Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourse. So I will give you a background of that. That in the Tipitaka or Tripitaka, the Buddhist canon, the Theravada Buddhist canon or Pali canon, it's divided into three parts. One is discipline, second is the discourse, and the third is the philosophical or the psychological or higher teachings. And this particular sutta, or the discourse, Chula Hatti Padopama Sutta, is in the sutta, the discourse. And this sutta, again, the section of the sutta divided into 5 major sections. So longer discourses, middle length discourses, groupings, numerical, and the selection of the books. So it's divided into 5, called Nikayas. And among these 5, the second book, called the Majjhima Nikaya, or middle length discourse. In that Majjhima Nikaya middle length discourse, this sutta, this discourse, is number 27. And this number 27 is called Chula Hatti Padopama Sutta. Yeah? And this is translated into English. Let me see the proper English translation. It says, the shorter discourse on the simile of the elephant's footprint. Yeah? So, elephant's footprints. And in this middle length discourse, or most of the discourses, always begins with saying, "Thus have I heard." So that means someone has heard what the Buddha said, and it's been compiled. And here, "Thus have I heard," I here denotes Venerable Ananda, who was the attendant of the Buddha. So he heard this sutta and explained it after Buddha's cremation, when there was a first Buddhist council held to compile Buddha's teachings. At that time, Venerable Ananda then recited this sutta beginning with, "Thus have I heard." And after Venerable Ananda recited the teachings, the discourse, in front of the 499 noble monks. All 499 monks recited again and confirmed that the Sutra or the Discourse was taught by the Buddha. And that's how it's been preserved as one of the discourses in middle length. And that's why most of the suttas or discourses begin by "Thus have I heard." And that's simply because this is how Venerable Ananda told to the Sangha Council. And the Sangha decided to compile in that way, and that's how preserved the Buddha's teachings. And this is, again, in the sutta, you will see, it says, on one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. And this is the beauty of reading the discourses. It gives you exact place, where the city, the temple, and the people. So on that occasion, the Blessed One was living in a Savatthi, the city. The Savatthi, the city where Buddha stayed much of the time and gave a lot of discourses on it. And Jeta's Grove. So Jeta's Grove, again, I think I have mentioned about it, that this was the garden belongs to the Prince Jeta, and it says Anathapindika's park. Anathapindika, the millionaire, he bought that grove from the prince, having seen that it's very accessible, not far away from the city and not close to the city. Whoever would like to visit the monastery, easy to be there. And that's how this Jeta's Grove, or known as Jetavana, was bought and offered it to the Buddha. And that is the place where the Buddha was sitting, and this Chulahatti Padopama Sutta was told. And here in this sutta, before going into the detail, it gives you a background. The background says that on that occasion, Brahmin Janusoni. So the Brahmin Janusoni was driving out of a Savatthi in the middle of the day in an all-white chariot. So he was very well-known Brahmin. Imagine that in 2,600 years ago, having the chariot, and a completely white chariot, and riding on the chariot is how luxurious it is. And having known this, riding on the chariot, we can see that this Brahmin Janusoni was well enough and well respected. So as he was driving out from the Savatthi city, he saw an ascetic, his or known as a wanderer. His name was Pilotika. So he was a wanderer. Basically, he was believer of other faiths, not a Buddhist monk, but he was an ascetic. On the returning, he met with this Brahmin Janusoni, and having met this Pilotika ascetic in the middle of the day, which was probably very sunny day, and out of curiosity, he asked, "Where are you coming from?" When this Brahmin Janusoni asked him, "Where are you coming from?" then this ascetic simply replied, saying that, "I am coming back from the audience with the reckless Buddha, the Gautama." So he went to see the Buddha. And after that, the conversation goes on saying that, "Oh, how did you find the Buddha?" Or finding lucidity of wisdom of the Buddha. And this ascetic, or the wanderer, Pilotika, replied, saying that, I am no condition conditioned to compare the Buddha to anyone else. So he was simply saying that a Buddha is so great that I cannot compare his knowledge. And then when he replied that the knowledge of the Buddha, then the Brahmin Janusoni again said that, oh, you praise the Buddha so highly. How is it possible? And Pilotika said that, oh, how couldn't I praise the Buddha? The noble ones and praised ones even praised the Buddha as the higher being, praise higher than the Buddha, than the humans, and they praise even to the celestial beings. So this Pilotika, as a wanderer or the disciple of other faiths, gave a simile of the footprints, saying that one who is hunting the elephants, when he sees a footprint of the elephant, big elephant's footprints, realize that in this wood or in this forest there is a big elephant which is uncomparable to any other animals. So too, the Buddha is great that he is incomparable to anyone else. And so this Pilotika again went on saying that why Buddha is so incomparable to anyone else, even the humans and the gods, that there are people, noble, learned people, or clever people, would think that I have studied, I have knowledge, I know things, and having heard that where the Buddha is, or where the Buddha is living in this village or in this town or in these cities, they would think that we'll go and discuss, debate on the teachings of the Buddha, thinking that I will ask this way, and if Buddha replied in that way, I will reply in this way, and I will reply in that way. And that's how they plan to defeat the Buddha. But having gone to the Buddha after discussion, normally what happens that they become the followers of the Buddha. So that is the first footprints of the Buddha that he had compared, saying there are noble, clever, learned people, after discussed with the Buddha, rather than converting to the Buddha or defeating the Buddha, they convert themselves and follow the Buddha's teachings. And then the second, there are learned Brahmins, thinking that they will defeat the Buddha by discussion and debate. But after they have gone to the debates and gone to the discussions, normally, rather than defeating the Buddha, they too convert to the Buddha's dispensation. And there are again learned people also will go. And there are other humans, those who believe that they know, and they also will go to defeat, or other faiths will go and defeat, thinking of defeating the Buddha through the debates. And what happened that after whoever came to debate with the Buddha, end of the discussion or end of the debate, they normally convert themselves to the Buddha. And saying that it is so fortunate that we have got this opportunity to discuss, to debate with the Buddha. Otherwise, we had been thinking that we know the best. We are the great. And we were defeating every one of other faiths, every one of other believers. Simply because we can debate and defeat others, we were thinking that we were knowledgeable. We were knowledgeable nobles, knowledgeable Brahmins, knowledgeable academics, knowledgeable believers. And now, after having audience with the Buddha, we realize that how ignorant we were. And this is how fortunate, how miracle it is that we had this opportunity to meet the Buddha, an audience with the Buddha, discuss with the Buddha, and debate with the Buddha, and finally we have realized it. So the wanderer compared Buddha's knowledge in that way, saying that much great the Buddha is. So how on earth he could not praise him? And after that, the Brahmin Janusoni, who was a well respected Brahmin during that time, felt so great. So he thought to himself, one day I will visit the Buddha and will discuss. And the discourse went on saying that he went to speak with the Buddha, and he retold this matter, what he had a conversation with this wanderer Pilotika. And then after discussion, and he said that he compared compared the Buddha as the footprint of the elephant. And in that case, Buddha again recollected that it is not that is correct. Even having seen the footprint, we cannot say that that footprint belongs to what type of the elephant, whether the elephant was male or female. So in order to find that the footprint belongs to the male or female elephant, you have to go to the closer and then find out that belongs to the female or a male elephant. And that is so too. We cannot comprehend to the Buddha unless we have realized the truth as equal to him. And this, again, we can see that sometimes if we haven't experienced it, we cannot compare to one another. It's like I normally compare this, like before I was doing master's degree, I didn't know how does it look like. Once I have done, I know that how do you do the master's. And whoever comes, then I can introduce to him. So that's so the Buddha was talking. And in order to understand the Buddha, we have to apply the teachings of the Buddha. And here, in this particular sutta, Buddha was starting from the level, very low level of moral living. So, ethical living. Basically, he was talking about that practice of the 5 precepts. And among the 5 precepts, again, taking it seriously and practicing. And after we have practiced these precepts, we are cultivating the mind, and we are simply understanding that this whole mass of body belongs to us. And whatever we see is everything, it's called the 6 senses. Whatever comes to contact, without having judgment or without having any opinions, we simply see it. And with that, we are developing this mindfulness and awareness, so-called sati sampajanya, awareness of whatever we do in our day-to-day life. Every action we become mindful, whatever we do, whether we are walking, sitting, eating, talking, every little bit of an action that we perform, we are mindful of that. When we are mindful of that, what happens is that we attain the jhanas. Yeah? We attain the jhanas, and we become simply as like the Buddha compared it like a bird simply flies with 2 wings without having any burdens. And so too, we will be developing in that way. And with that, we attain the jhanas, 4 jhanas, and then after the attainment of the 4 jhanas, Because if the mind becomes so still and develop the equanimity, with that development of the mental state will channeled to understand the previous lives. And in that previous life understanding or recollecting the previous lives, one could go into the so many eons and eons and eons of previous lives, and understanding in that life he was named by this, his father was this, and like that. And the second knowledge he could get is called the passing away and reappearing in the future. It's called Chuttupadayana. And basically, after one has attained this knowledge, the third knowledge one will attain is called destruction of all the taints that clouds our mind, that defiles ourselves. And with that completion of complete destruction of the taints, he is known as the realized one. And this destructions of the taints one can do by understanding the Four Noble Truths, that everything is the suffering, and there is a cause of suffering, and this suffering can be ended, and there is a path to end the suffering. So once one has attained this level, and only then one would be able to speak properly that and compare to the Buddha. So that the Buddha simply was talking that it is up to one individual who practice. And once you have practiced, then you will realize what it is. If you haven't practiced, then you will not be able to comprehend it. It's like a food. Just having read the menu, or just having seen the food in front of you, if you haven't tested it, you would not be able to comprehend or tell how that food taste looks like. Once you have eaten, then you know exactly how this food the taste looks like. The same with the teachings of the Buddha. In order to understand the teachings of the Buddha, we have to practice it. And once we have fully practiced, understood, comprehended, and that moment we are also liberated. And so too the Buddha also liberated. And that's how you will be able to comprehend one another. So I offer this as tonight's reflection on the Chulahatti Padopama Sutta on the occasion of the full moon, which is believed that the Arhat Mahinda visited Sri Lanka to propagate Buddhism, and that's how Sri Lanka became a Buddhist country, established for over 2,000 years. And with that again, Sri Lanka became the protector, promoter of Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, for such a long time. Even now, there are plenty of Buddhist centers and Buddhist monks working around the world to promote and to establish the Buddhist center. So with this, I end for tonight. In a few minutes' time, we will have a chanting and guided meditation. I would like to invite you to join with us as well. So, if you are not continuing for the chanting and guided meditation, may you be happy, peaceful, stay safe, take care. May the Dhamma bless you, may the Buddha bless you. And if not, if you are continuing, then see you shortly. So, Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you.